So 10 years ago today, on August 16th, 2016, I began my ministry with you. Barack Obama was president. 4 years of seminary, a year as intern with Santa Monica UU, and a year serving the UU Church of Studio City, where I met the wonderful Anthony, had prepared me well for ministry in normal times. I was filled with hope and excitement for what we might create together. And then, 3 months after I arrived, Donald Trump was elected, and normal times became a thing of the past. Since then, we've lived through political upheaval, a local mass shooting, multiple local fires and mudslides, including one fire that came within 100 yards of our building, a global pandemic, years of isolation and adaptation, the loss of beloved members, the sale of our sanctuary, a capital campaign, a name change, not to mention the daily ache of a world in rapid transformation. So these have been far from normal times. But we've also laughed, and we've sung, and we've marched, and we've protested, and we've eaten together and made art together and raised our beautiful children together, and we've welcomed strangers and grieved our deceased. And we burned our mortgage papers. And we learned new technology, and we discovered again and again that love is far more creative and resilient than fear. Yes? Yes. It has been quite a ride. But an anniversary like this can easily become a list. We did this, we launched that program, we raised this amount of money, and we welcomed this many new people. And of course, lists have their place. They help us remember. They show us that our work mattered. And in fact, our dear Bethany Simonson over there has put together, worked on an incredible list of all our achievements over the last decade, adding to the 50-plus years of history already in our archives. And I want to thank you, Bethany, so much for all your work. And when it's finished, it's because it's still being finished, we will put a copy in our members' drive for anyone who is interested. It is quite extraordinary, isn't it? It is so much, yes. But of course, a congregation isn't a resume, right? And the deepest meaning of 10 years together can't be measured by a balanced budget or membership numbers or programs launched or even by a mortgage set aflame in a glorious burst of freedom. Those things are important, of course. But the real question isn't just what did we accomplish in the last 10 years, although my German Protestant work ethic likes to think that's really important. But rather it's who did we become together over this time? And did we fulfill our mission of nurturing spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice and compassion? I think our name, Chalice, and this beautiful symbol there, gives us a frame. A name that we chose as a congregation after a year-long discernment process in 2019. A chalice is both a vessel and a flame. I think it's a beautiful symbol of yin and yang. The vessel receives, it makes room for depth, it holds what is both precious and difficult. And the flame illuminates. It warms and guides. It signals to someone wandering in the darkness, there is life and light right here. There is hope here. You are not alone. Over these 10 years, I believe we've been learning how to more fully live into our name. We've been becoming a vessel deep and broad enough to hold one another in loving community through massive change. and a flame bright enough to carry that love out into the world. In my first sermon with you during ingathering on the 15th anniversary of September 11th in 2016, I talked about the hopes that people had placed in Barack Obama's presidency and what happened when life, politics, and human beings contravened that hope. And of course, there were many new hopes for your new ministry too, and perhaps some anxieties as well, understandably. What was this going to be like? And so I invited you to bring your open-minded, large-hearted, most thoughtful selves to this community. I asked us to speak directly and kindly to one another, to say yes whenever you could, and to create a culture of possibility. I reminded us that congregational life was not about you or about me, it's about us, the highest good of the congregation, of our mission and our larger purpose in this world. And I asked us to choose excellence over perfection, something I'm still working on, and love and laughter over the safety of doing everything in a familiar way. I hoped that we would become courageous enough to try new things, to experiment, to fail and say and do the wrong things, to learn and to try again. And then I asked you to trust me. I promised that I wanted nothing but the very highest good for this community, and that I would give you my very best. And I ended with the words I still believe. We are so much more together than we are alone. Right? And 10 years later, I stand before you deeply grateful because you didn't simply listen to that invitation, you answered it determinedly, creatively, and with great heart. And together, I think that we've made our chalice stronger and brighter. Yes? Our first year was a year of listening. I met with most of you. We studied our history, we began building trust, and we named 3 special needs. First was financial stability and clearer organizational structure. The second was deeper congregational engagement. And the third was helping more people discover Chalice. Now, those goals were not merely institutional. Financial stability was not about just money for money's sake. It was about making sure that this community could thrive and remain here for the people who hadn't found us yet, who may one day need us. And it was about building a vessel that wouldn't crack under pressure, under the heat. So we created a financial sustainability task force, remember that, Tom? And we figured out how to balance the budget. We launched a capital campaign to buy this building outright. And over 3 years, this congregation raised about $850,000. And in the summer of 2021, we paid off that mortgage on Fellowship Hall, and we burned the papers. Do you remember that? Out there in the parking lot. We moved from vulnerability towards stability through our generosity, through our planning, our dedication, and our shared sacrifice. It was an amazing achievement. And thank you, Dawn, for your leadership, too, during all of that. Every pledge was much more than just a financial transaction. It was an act of trust in a future that some of us might not personally see. But it affirmed, let Chalice be here when someone needs a place where their questions are welcomed, their family is honored, their identity is safe, and their longing to serve can be expressed. And of course, we deepened our Chalice spiritually as well. Soul Matters gave us common themes and questions to live with. We held Chalice circles, starting point, Dharma, meditation and spirit circles, women's and men's groups, mindfulness classes and retreats. And all those groups, as well as our pastoral care system, gave us places to grow and to be held and to be known and to know one another. And of course, we also shepherded our precious children and youth in our community as they grew up among us. We offered our whole lives, crossing paths, coming of age, and an LGBTQ plus youth group. We watched children we'd known for years bridge into adulthood. I'm so glad Xander is here to attest to that. We welcomed more families. We gathered for family community forums. We held a climate revival workshop and, an electrification fair, among others. And we began reshaping religious education as wisdom exploration. With we grow, we wonder, we quest, and for the adults, we thrive. The goal was not thinking alike or staying with what we'd had in the past. It was loving more, with depth, with freedom, courage, and deeper connection. And that is what our chalice is for. But a chalice doesn't only hold, it also burns. The flame asks something of us. It asks us to take whatever love, truth, courage, and belonging we find here and carry it beyond these walls. Over this decade, our justice work became more focused and intersectional. We formed ministries devoted to racial and economic equality, gender and LGBTQ plus equality, as well as climate action. Reinvigorated our welcoming congregation work, and we joined UU the Vote. We began beloved conversations, building beloved community advocates, a regional BIPOC group, and programs that asked us to look honestly at race, at power, at mistakes, at white supremacy, and at transformation. For several years, the UUA recognized Chalice as a good trouble congregation, right, Pamela? But the most important thing was never that recognition. It was what the flame enabled us to see and lead, and what love asked us to do. We marched for women. We stood in support outside the Islamic Center. We protested the border walls and wars. We advocated for immigrants. We supported Planned Parenthood and bans off our bodies, as well as transgender rights. We joined climate demonstrations and wrote postcards to defend democracy. And our justice was also deeply relational. We fed people through manna, through Food Forward, through Harbor House and Adelante Comunidad and other community partners. We supported farm workers and refugees, families and young people at Casa Pacifica. And during the pandemic, members sewed and distributed more than 2,500 masks. Do you remember that? We fed hospital workers, we created Valentine signs, we adopted families, and we wrote to young people and members living alone. And then during the power outages of 2025, members opened their homes, and Chalice opened Fellowship Hall to people who needed warmth, safety, electricity, and company. And we found a way to bring all of that together under our beautiful Justice Hub. And thank you, amazing leaders who have been leading this charge for so many years. I want to point out Randall, Barbara, and Pamela in particular, but there's so many more who have joined that. Sorry? Jill. And Jill. Where's Jill? In the lounge. In the lounge. Wonderful. So that is what love looks like when it stops just being an idea and is put into action. It marches, yes, but it also feeds and it sows and it writes and it welcomes and it hugs and it votes and it listens and it opens the door. But of course, our chalice flame never belonged to us alone. Light, my friends, is meant to be shared. It exists for the person searching for safety, for the neighbor searching for dignity, right, Grenda? For the ill person hoping for healing, and for the weary soul searching for proof that goodness is still alive in this world. And I see it everywhere here in this community. And we've also learned how much our chalice can hold. Remember March of 2020? Lockdown? I remember Tom and I saying, well, let's make plans for the next 3 weeks. We were wrong. We moved our entire congregation online with astonishing speed. Literally, we had like 2 days to get the whole service online. Volunteers learned technology that they'd never expected to master. How many here were part of helping us manage Zoom and for many, many years? Yes, lots of you. The choir kept rehearsing virtually, even though dear Anthony had begun with us only 3 weeks prior to lockdown.
Timing's everything.
Thank goodness you had 3 weeks at least to meet people. And we held weekly meditations, and everyone learned Zoom so we could continue worship, community forums, and justice ministries online. And amazingly, 15 new members joined us during the first few months of lockdown. And our guiding promise was simple. No one would be left behind. We wanted to be here for everyone who needed us. And I thank Ani for her incredible leadership as well during that time. Even the sale of our sanctuary in 2024, after years of discernment, asked us again, what makes a congregation a congregation? On June 16th, 2024, we held our final service next door, and then we moved everything into this building. And losing that beautiful space without an immediate replacement was painful. But we'd already practiced becoming portable and being flexible. We had worshipped online and outdoors. We'd gathered through fire and fear. And we knew by then that Chalice was never only a building. And with our online ministry, we were able to reach far beyond our walls. My friends, we have become adaptable people who make a home wherever we gather in justice, compassion, courage, and love. And what a joyful home we've made amidst all of these challenges. We've grown our choir to over 40 members. Yes, isn't that amazing? Soon they'll take up like half the congregation. And we've strummed ukuleles. We've filled cabarets with talent and delight. We've traveled to the Hollywood Bowl each summer and gathered at open mics and created voices at dusk and welcomed as One Harmony Children's Choir. And during lockdown, more than 70 Chalice members created the opening song video for General Assembly, Draw the Circle Wide. Raise your hand if you were part of that amazing, amazing endeavor. Thank you. And we held auctions with themes from the Monster Mash to Casino Royale. And we found ways to celebrate even during COVID, including online auctions. And remember those drive-through events we did there? That was incredible too. You guys are so creative. And of course, I'm so grateful that you flourished during my 2 sabbaticals and that you gave me those opportunities to renew. And you showed what a strong, capable, and connected congregation you are. And all of this mattered because survival is not enough. Human beings also need beauty. And we need play. And we need music that loosens the grief lodged in our chests. And laughter that reminds us we are still alive. And of course, a chalice is meant to hold joy too. Yes? Yes. And with Torkel's dancing, we get joy every week. So yes, my friends, we have so much to celebrate, don't we? And at the end of this year, we will mark 65 years as a congregation. And we are financially stable, spiritually alive, and putting love into action every day. And in a time when religious communities are struggling and shrinking, Chalice is a vibrant, creative, generous, and full of life community. But before we rush toward whatever comes next, I want us to stop for a moment and really take all that in. Look at what is here and what we've co-created. On any given Sunday, people arrive carrying joys that they can't wait to share and grief that they can hardly name. And children learn that they are worthy and loved, and adults ask questions that they may have been afraid to ask anywhere else. And music opens our hearts, and volunteers, all of you make everything possible. And someone discovers that they don't have to face life alone. We're here for you. This isn't small. This isn't ordinary. This is not merely a preparation for something bigger or some more impressive version of Chalice that may exist someday. This, my friends, this is the ministry. This is living our mission. This is who I hoped we would become. We live in a culture that measures success by expansion, by more people, more programs, more space. Bigger is treated as better, and busy is mistaken for being worthwhile. And even in congregational life, it can feel as though health must always mean adding something or building something new. But bigger isn't the same as deeper and wider. And busier doesn't equate worth. And more isn't always better, right? Sometimes consolidating, deepening, and integrating what is good is itself a profound spiritual practice and success. And perhaps this is part of the wisdom 10 years have given us. Our chalice flame doesn't need to be a bonfire to prove that it is bright and worth shining. It needs to be tended well enough to keep giving warmth and light to those who need it. So our greatest achievement is not what Chalice accomplished in the last 65 or 2,000 or even 10 years. It's who all of us are becoming by being part of this community. Think about yourself. Have you changed since coming here? Have you grown? I think we're becoming more generous than we knew we could be. I think we're more adaptable than we ever wanted to have to be. I'll say that for myself. I think we're becoming more courageous because constant change and these times require courage. I think we're becoming more tender because grief has taught us what matters. And I think we're becoming more joyful because joy is one of the ways that we survive struggle together. Yeah? And of course, my friends, we have become more loving. Thank you, Nancy. I have never felt as loved as I have by all of you. And I hope you have felt my great love and care for every single one of you. And our love overflows to reach those who need it well beyond our walls. So as this anniversary turns us toward the future, I invite us to notice what is precious, to care for it, and to make it sustainable. The world needs what we offer here. It needs communities that can hold complexity without shattering, where people can disagree without dehumanizing one another, where children can ask honest questions and not be made to feel wrong, where LGBTQ plus folk and immigrants know their lives are holy, where science and spirit sit at the same table and talk to one another, where grief is not hurried or passed over, and where love becomes a verb. If we want Chalice to be here for the people who will need us tomorrow, we must care for the people and the structures carrying this ministry today. A vessel asked to hold everything will eventually crack, and a flame that is never tended will eventually consume its fuel. So deepening our stewardship of this precious community, of this chalice, is how we promote our mission and are able to continue serving during these tumultuous times. So here's my invitation to us for our next chapter. I gave you a bold invitation 10 years ago. Here's my invitation for the next chapter. Choose one dedicated and sustainable way to belong and serve. Not 5 new commitments. Not everything that could possibly be done. But one real commitment that you can keep, that you feel excited about. Our calling is not to do everything. Our calling is to do what is ours to do, and to do it with full hearts and love that are not depleted. It might be singing, it might be making coffee, feeding us, facilitating a circle, welcoming newcomers, caring for our children, supporting our staff, nourishing our neighbors, defending democracy, or caring for our beautiful earth. Whatever it is, bring your whole heart to what is truly yours to do. And trust that someone else will bring theirs to what is theirs to do. 10 years ago, I promised to give you my very best, and I've tried to do that every day. And today, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me your very best. You're extraordinary people, and you've changed my life profoundly. You've trusted, you've challenged, you've forgiven, you've laughed, you've grieved, and you've co-created with me. And you have taught me more about ministry than seminary ever could. And most of all, you've taught me how to love more. And it's been one of the greatest honors of my life to serve this congregation. So thank you. May we keep living into our name. May we be a vessel spacious enough and deep enough to hold us all with grace and welcome all who are to come. And may we be a flame steady enough to shine through the long, hard night. And when someone in this hurting world wonders whether courage, community, joy, and love are still possible, may the community we faithfully tend together be our answer. May it be so. Amen.